Happy Yargle Day, everybody. It's Gomedex, and today we have a free Yargle themed event. Today is September 3rd in American calendar dates. That is spelled out 9/3, the same numbers in the original Yargle's stat line, the 5 mana 9/3 with no abilities. So we've got a special event here on Arena where we play for free. We only get prizes at 1 or 2 wins for 1200 total experience, so that'll jump you up a level on your mastery passes if you care about that. This is mainly for the fun of the event, just to do some goofy stuff. Everyone gets to play with a pre-constructed deck featuring 14 copies of Yargle and a bunch of spacecraft, but more importantly, while we will look at that deck in a second, there are some really weird emblems for this format. So all of your frog spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, and of course Yargle is a frog spirit, so Yargle is now a 3 mana 9/3 instead of a 5 mana 9/3, and the first spell you cast each turn has Cascade. So you will be flipping cards off the top until you see something with a cheaper mana value than whatever you cast, and you will cast that in addition. So it's going to be a super chaotic, super RNG Yargle fest in this event, but it should be a pretty fun one. So here's a peek at the event deck we get to run today. It's 110 cards, 14 of the original Yargle, Glutton of Urborg. It's just a black-white deck, so tons of great dual lands for that color pair, and a lot of goofy stuff you can do with Yargle. Obviously, because Yargle is a legend, there are a few ways in this deck to shut off the legend rule, like Mirror Box or Helm of the Host here, to make a bunch of non-legendary Yargles, which can be pretty fun. There's also Sariemas to tutor out Yargles from your deck and make them indestructible. There's a lot of goofy, fancy nonsense that I'm sure we will see how it all plays out as we get into the gameplay. Tons of little intricacies and synergies in this pile of cards. Too much to go over, especially for such a casual event where we're just going to play as much as we want to get those wins. But one last thing to go over before we get into the gameplay that's very, very important to keep in mind if you're interested in collecting all of the titles on Arena, or specifically you would like one that is related to Yargle. There are Yargle Day Achievements that will be up for just 9 days. So a little bit over a week to do these all. You have to have exactly 9 power on your board at the beginning of your end step. That will naturally happen at some point if you play a bunch of Arena. I got this achievement, and that's what alerted me to the fact that these achievements exist. There's deal 93 combat damage to opponents with Yargle over any number of games. Today is a great day to do that. You've got a 14 Yargle deck if you run in this event. Play 20 games in which your deck contains 25 non-land cards from Dominaria. I'm not sure if this event deck has enough, but I'm sure we will find out after a game if this gets any progress. Win a game in which the only creature spells you cast have no abilities. Build a deck for that. And with Yargle as your commander, this is probably going to be the hardest one to do if, like the other achievements, they only let you do it in a ranked game. With Yargle as your commander, win a game in which there are no land cards remaining in your library. So the reason that it says Yargle in the asterisk is you can use any different version of Yargle. You can use the original or Yargle in Multani. But either way, you have to run a bunch of other cards that are focused on self-mill or trying to get all of your lands out of your deck in some way or the other for that one to trigger. So that's going to be, I think, the one that is going to take the longest to accomplish or take the most restrictive deck build. The rest of them, you kind of just have to spam a lot of games. But if you get 3 of them done, you get an emote, you get Yargle's sound effect. It's as good as it's going to get. And at 5 achievements, you get the Bargler title. Yargle do be bargling. And you've got 1 week to try to accomplish that. So pretty crazy stuff. I'm actually pretty excited about this. I'm not a huge Yargle fan myself, but I like the idea of them giving us more unique achievements to acquire more unique titles. I don't love the timed manner of this, that we have to do it in just a week, but I do like being able to get like a Bargler title if you do a bunch of Yargle related stuff. It'd be cool if they did it for a bunch of other legends, for like popular commanders people want to show off that they're fans of, even when they're playing other formats. Or what I think would be pretty cool as somebody who just plays a bunch of draft is if there were set related titles. Like if you really like a specific set, achievements for like winning with only cards from that set or winning so many games of that draft format or something, like some title like Dominaria Expert or something, I don't know. Dominaria Lover, Dominaria Fan, something like that, but like set related. So Edge of Eternity's fan. But I digress. The adding unique titles and emotes and stuff for new unique achievements is cool. The 1 week time span to be able to do it, not the greatest. But now you are all alerted, now you know. Let's start getting some progress on these achievements as we hop in to the Yargle Day, Yargle in Space free event. Anyways, here we are. So Cascade with the cost reduction on Yargle will be fantastic, because while its cost is reduced by 2, so we're only spending the 3 to cast it, its mana value is still technically 5, so this will cascade into 4 drops or less. This looks like a great opening hand. I'll have to top deck a land to make it to 3 mana to cast all these spells, but these are fantastic Yargle Day cards for sure. Dirgecraft is the draw. This can make our opponent sack a card. And then basically all the spacecraft in this deck will be stationed off a single Yargle tap, which is very cute. There's a Night's Whisper with Cascade, so they get a 1 mana spell. They find an Embrace Oblivion, which they have nothing to blow up, so they will not cast that. 2 mana, we have no 2 mana plays, but that is fine. It's not like we could cascade into anything good off them anyway. I think all the 1 mana cards are like combat tricks and removal and stuff, so here we go. Let's get it going. You know what? I could lead with Seriema. That way, when I cast a Yargle, if they don't have instant speed removal, I could just give it indestructible immediately because I tap to crew the Seriema. Well, what is that card? Oh, Wings of Cosmos. It has no legal target, so I have to just click Resolve. Kind of confusing. If you cascade into something that has no legal targets on board, they like don't even show you the spell over on the right or in the middle or anything. Just gonna get a Yargle. There's probably another legend, but it's Yargle Day. Come on. Make your move. Instant speed removal on Seriema. Well, there goes the plan of stationing that Seriema and having an indestructible tapped Yargle because of it. There's Hedron Archive. Our opponent is just ramping over there. They get a Monoist Gravliner. That'll be a great card to immediately station with Yargles. Again, I do think the general strat is probably trying to get the spacecraft down first. That way, the second that you resolve a Yargle, the spacecraft's ready to go, ready to start bashing. And that said, I don't have a 4-mana spacecraft, so I'm going to go Yargle here. See what 4 mana or less play we find. Another one with no legal target, I think. Yep, Sap Vitality, 3 damage. So, no Cascade there. Pinnacle kill ship and kill a Yargle. Cascade into a battle cruiser. Our opponent is so set up when they find a Yargle. They could play a Yargle, station the kill ship, then use the kill ship to station the battle cruiser. I kind of need to hold up Dubious Delicacy, I think. So I'm going to tap all but 1 land for the Hedron Archive. That way the Hedron Archive gives me the mana to Delicacy their Yargle. I guess the awkward part is like, even though you can only station at sorcery speed, I still don't technically have an opportunity to kill Yargle until it's attempted to station something. So until they already have, like, stationed the kill ship, I can't kill the Yargle pre-stationing, which would be the real goal. So our opponent just not found any of the 14 Yargles. It's kind of wild. First spell you cast each turn has Cascade. Should I try to cast a 2-mana spell here? Probably not at the cost of not having a Dubious Delicacy anymore. Okay. If I can get to Helm of the Host mana, so I play a Yargle and equip in the same turn, that would be pretty beautiful. Playing 2 mana rocks in one turn really helps do that. Don't have Delicacy up if I cast the Helm now, but as I said before, even if I do hold the Delicacy up, they would be able to station 1 time before the Delicacy resolves. Because I don't get priority after they fully summon the creature until they try to do something else. Draw 2 off the archive. It's just like all removal over there. Is Yargle Day really just gonna be like control mirrors all day? Just mountains of removal waiting to blow up Yargles. At least I have a spacecraft out this time. So I at least get 1 creature ready to go. But I imagine when I try to helm up the Yargle, it's going to die here. But we'll see. Combat? No! Oh my god! Their hand is very bad, apparently. They're immediately down to 7 here. We take those. There's Dirgecraft. Sack a non-token creature. We'll sack the Gravliner. The smallest one. No way am I sacking a Yargle on Yargle Day. And there's the concession from our opponent. Weird gameplay. Weird gameplay in this event, but probably a pretty skewed vision of it as I've only played 1 game, so maybe they just had a really weird draw. But, I don't know, I guess we take those. We'll head into game number 2. Here we are for game 2. That Night's Whisper for 2 mana looks great to get us started. Cheap removal here. The Embrace Oblivion and a Make Your Move. Wings of the Cosmos. Alright, that does not allow me to cast it. Chromatic Star. Cascade for 0. Show me that whole deck, baby. Whee! That's always the funnest. Especially when you're in like a game of Commander. Oh no, my wireless mouse died. Well, I gotta use the loud one. Apologies for extra clicking noises today. That's always the funnest in a game of Commander, when you cascade and everybody's just looking at you and you're flipping your deck till you're like 50 cards deep. You're like, what is this? Refuse to yield. Okay, that doesn't do anything. Dissolve all. Come on, Millie Yargle. Come on, Millie Yargle. Yes. That was pretty lucky. I could have definitely seen an argument for just resolving a Yargle immediately there, since we didn't know if we'd have anything to even pick up with the Grav ship. But again, because of the way that priority works, where if Yargle resolves, they can't kill Yargle until I have stationed a spacecraft, I think generally you want to play the spacecraft first, then the Yargle, so that even if Yargle dies instantly, you have a fully stationed spacecraft to start beating down with. And now I could cast a Yargle and hold up a Wings of the Cosmos, which does blank some of the removal they've put in these decks. They were completely designed for mirror matches, so as we saw earlier, a lot of the removal is -3/-3, deal 3 damage, and so on. So Cosmos could shut it off. The other thing that's kind of cute about it is it lets your Yargle station 2 spacecraft, but we only have the 1 in this hand. Could embrace their Seriema if I want. Make sure I don't take any damage in the sky. But that can wait. I can take a hit from it, especially with a lifelinker on the board. I would rather be able to protect my Yargle by having my colored source up for Wings of the Cosmos. Yep, there's their Yargle, which cascades into Fell Graveship. Nice. We'll see if they mill a spacecraft or a Yargle. They did not. They failed to find there. And now the Seriema is stationed. They have 1 mana up. Is there 1 mana removal for Yargle in these decks? I don't know. I didn't look at the deck lists that well, but I assume probably not. At instant speed, there's Embrace Oblivion, the sorcery. I think I should be able to Wings of the Cosmos, just eat the Seriema. Okay, so they're just going to hold it off anyway. Fair enough. Okay. So, obviously Yargle is a legend, so let's make your move, because we want to play expensive removal here. Since this will be what is going to cascade for us. Find Embrace Oblivion? Sure. We have to kill the Grav Ship. Okay, they concede anyway. We get to kill the Grav Ship. The way that the stack is, the Seriema is going to die last. So if I Embrace Oblivion there, Yargle, it won't actually die because it still has Indestructible when that resolves. And then it loses it when Seriema dies. So we get to kill Grav Ship with that, sacking Mind Stone, which I think is probably worth it. They take 12, lose 2 of their best cards. They're at 5 life total. And I'm still holding Wings of the Cosmos up. Yeah, a little bit of an early concession, but we had a great position there. So that is 2-0. That's all you got to do if all you want is the experience, the XP on that prize tracker. Easy enough to do if you grind out a few of these games. Obviously, on average, like 4 games, if you have a 50-50 win rate, you'll get there. But, again, this is a great spot to grind out these Yargle Day achievements. Excuse me. Well, this has turned into a major PSA video. This event does not count for the Yargle Day achievements. This is literally only for the fun of the event. We definitely dealt combat damage to opponents with Yargle Glutton of Urborg. We definitely played games where the only creature spells we cast had no abilities, because Yargle Glutton of Urborg was the only creature spell that we cast. And neither of those got any progress. All right, PSA. PSA, the achievements will not get any progress from this event, which is a little bit of a bummer. So I guess I will not be playing this event anymore, as it's not getting me any progress for anything. It's just the experience. But those were our 2 games of the Yargle Day event. This is a 20-minute recording right now, so this would probably be like a 15-minute video at this point. So I will really quickly cook up a deck with 25 non-land cards from Dominaria focused on Yargle, so that we can actually get a little bit of progress on these Yargle Day achievements and show off a pretty simple deck list, maybe all commons and uncommons, to craft if you have enough wild cards for it. If you drafted Dominaria enough, we'll give you an example of a pretty simple deck list you could put together to work on some of these achievements. Alright, so after that huge bummer where we found out we can't get any achievements within the Yargle Day event itself, I have come up with the simplest possible deck list, the least wildcard consuming deck list that you can make that can work on multiple Yargle Day achievements at once. So one of the Yargle Day achievements is to play 20 games. Again, play, not win, so the deck can be horrible as long as you don't scoop early and it doesn't count. Just play until your opponent kills you naturally. A deck with 25 or more Dominaria cards. The easiest way to do that requires the least crafting, is with Rat Colony. This is a card from Dominaria that you can craft 4 copies of. It is a common, so 4 common wild cards, and then you now have infinite copies of it. You can shove 36 copies in your deck and 24 swamps if you want, but just in case your opponent is also doing some really stupid nonsense and not playing a particularly good deck, you can go ahead and just run 32 of those and run 4 Yargle Glutton of Urborg as well, just on the off chance your opponent's being really nice or they have no board state or something. Then by having Yargles in your deck, you can also work towards that 93 damage with Yargles that you need to deal to your opponents. So that's the simplest. These are the absolute bare bones, complete essentials for working on those achievements. That said, there's plenty of other things you can do here, plenty of different ways to go. All would require owning a lot more cards or spending a lot of wild cards, running a bunch of stuff to help give that Yargle evasion, or just running a ton of removal and stuff to keep the board clear to get the Yargles in could be a reasonable choice. With the rat colonies, there are tons of ways to build a not really competitive rat colony deck, but a good enough rat colony deck that you don't feel completely embarrassed to be running all of them. One of the simplest is to go black-white. If you can craft the whole playset of Raise the Past, and you already own some pretty good lands to where you don't have to spend a bunch of wild cards on dual lands, Raise the Past is one of the more solid pieces to run as your top-end finisher in the rat colony decks. The ways that your opponents can deal with it is just throwing a bunch of removal at rat colonies, trading off with them aggressively, throwing a board wipe at them. That way, in the late game, once they're all in the grave, when you're running out of gas, boom, every single copy of Rat Colony comes from your graveyard straight back to the battlefield with Raise the Past. So that's one of the ways you can build like a better Rat Colony deck. There's other ways to do it, of course, as well. You can make all of the Rat Colonies unblockable with Tetsuko Umezawa, and they are also from Dominaria, which is not the most relevant, because again, you're already going to be running like 25 rat colonies, so you don't need more Dominaria cards, but it's still kind of cool. So every rat colony is unblockable with Tetsuko. There's a lot of different ways to do that. So this is just an example, the simplest deck list you can possibly build to work on those achievements. So here's a look at what I mean for the win a deck only playing vanilla creatures. Because you need to cast at least 5 creatures, if you want to do this in standard, there's basically only one color pair you can do it in, only one color pair that has that many creatures with no abilities, and that's going to be green-white. All of these cards are commons and uncommons. Most of these cards, especially the Foundations ones and the Gigantosaurus, I believe everyone on Arena gets at least a couple copies of all 3 of these for free. The Bear Cubs, I believe, are also just randomly free, mostly. So you don't need to spend wild cards on those, but you might need to spend a little bit of common, uncommon wild cards to stock up your other vanilla creatures out of standard. Those are obviously the most important part, the ones that you literally need to get the achievement, but to make it a lot easier on you, so that you could get some decent wins against other dirtly decks, you want to have some ways to give these creatures trample. That's particularly good with the green vanilla creatures, because most of green's vanilla creatures are just gigantic, so trampling over with them is great. So the Overprotect and the Biosynthetic Bursts are ways to counter potential removal spells, or make sure your creature wins combat, and trample in for some damage at the same time. So they're very flexible in here. They can be used to counter removal, or they can be used to finish your opponent off if they're chump blocking your 12-8. The Hunter's Talent is also flexible, where it gets to be used as removal to clear a path for all of your creatures to get your hits in, and it gets to be used as the way to give them trample later. So once you get this to level 2, your Gigantosauruses are a lot scarier. They're attacking as 11/10s with trample instead of 10/10s, the trample being the really important part there. And then, of course, just a little bit more removal to get things out of the way. So this is what I was talking about when I said basically just build your basic draft deck. Just kind of curve out, play removal to keep things out of the way, and protect your vanilla creatures until you win just a single game. It doesn't have to be the greatest deck ever. It can certainly look sketchier than this. You don't need the rare lands at all. You can just use some commons for the fixing, although I would recommend, if you don't have the rare lands, hopefully you at least have some common dual lands, or just shove every dual land you have in the color pair into the deck, because there are some restrictive costs on the vanilla creatures, particularly the green ones. 5 green, triple green there. So you want dual lands in here. But it should be simple enough. It should be easy enough. All right, for the last and most difficult and grindy achievement we have, win a game of Brawl with Yargle and Multani as your commander while there are no lands left in your library. This is going to be really difficult on Arena. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is also just an example deck list, so please do not craft this deck list. It is loaded with rares and mythics, and it is not the perfect build. So, there's 2 ways to do this. First and foremost is the most straightforward way, and that's what this deck list is. If you play a Golgari self-mill deck playing the green-black Yargle, then you can try to just run a bunch of great self-mill cards, a bunch of cards that get extra value for having more cards in grave and for milling more cards, and just keep playing out standard games until you get pretty low in your library. And then if you're in a position where you're ahead and you know you can win the game, like right on the spot, just grind it out a little longer. Try to keep playing until you've milled your whole deck, and then just try to win on the turn that you've milled your whole library. Now that could be pretty difficult because you need to get to a winning position and then maintain it until you finally milled your whole deck. And you need to make sure your opponent doesn't concede in response. So again, this is likely the hardest achievement by a lot, but there's also one alternate path to take. So that Golgari self-mill is the most straightforward way to try to get this achievement, but it will be very difficult and very grindy. Another way that's going to be very difficult and grindy for other reasons, because it's going to be pretty inconsistent, and very similarly to this one, you kind of need to get a commanding lead on the game and then do your combo to mill your whole deck, is to play a deck with Doomsday Excruciator. So you could play this in either Yargle deck. It'll be easier to cast in mono black Yargle. But in Yargle and Multani, if you run a bunch of Chromatic Lantern style cards that make all of your lands dual lands, then you can play this in here as well. There's also the Rickety Gazebo is a card that mills for and lets you return 2 permanents from your grave to the battlefield. That also has another half that makes all your lands tap for a mana of any color. So there's a few ways to put this into Yargle and Multani and just play the self-mill deck, but also maybe I'll draw Excruciator to really self-mill myself. But if you go mono black, it's going to be easier to cast it more consistently, and you can just run every single tutor that exists on Arena. So your entire goal is to cast your regular spells, get into a commanding lead, tutor the Excruciator to cast on a future turn, and whatever turn you can lethal your opponent, try to slam down that Excruciator and play anything you can to mill your last cards and then kill them. Once again, very similar to the Golgari build, where it has issues where if your opponent concedes in response to the Excruciator, if they concede when they're dead on board, they're not going to give you the time to keep milling yourself a little bit longer. So it's very dependent on how your opponent responds to this stuff. Unless you are incredibly lucky and run a million tutors, there is at least one way I can think of that you could Doomsday Excruciator combo your opponent immediately, even if they scoop. As long as they don't scoop in response to the trigger. If it triggers, then everybody mills 6, then you're good. So Excruciator, a 6/6, right? With Altar of Dementia, you can sack it and somebody mills 6. So with Altar of Dementia on board and then casting Doomsday Excruciator, there's 2 things you can do. You can sack the Excruciator to mill your final 6 cards. That way you know for sure there are no lands left in your deck. But if you have enough creatures on board, Doomsday Excruciator plus Altar of Dementia will mill your opponent's last 6 cards in your library, in their library, sorry. And then you don't have to find some other way to win the game. Then those are your way to win the game. So if you have just like a 3/3 and a 1/1 token and a 2/2 out, even if you're about to die from your opponent, if you have Altar of Dementia and you resolve Excruciator, you have won that game. Because you play Excruciator, Each player has 6 cards in library. You sack all your little stuff to make sure you don't have lands left in your deck, and then you mill their final 6, and you're good to go. So I think Altar of Dementia, if you want to try to go the combo route, these are the 2 crafts that are basically absolutely mandatory. The Excruciator and the Altar of Dementia. I mean, Excruciator is 100% mandatory if you're going that route. Altar of Dementia, probably the best secondary card to craft alongside him. That said, you also need a ton of tutors because it's a singleton format. And you can still just get counterspelled. You can still just get removal spelled. I'm not saying this is the be-all, end-all, easiest way to get this achievement. It's just an alternate path you can take. Whichever direction you would prefer to go, either way is going to have its own difficulties. Either way is probably going to take a long time because even when everything's going right, your opponent could just scoop before you've emptied your library. So, real difficult achievement, not one I'm going to try to grind out today because, again, it will take a very long time on average, but those are some different paths you can take towards winning the game with Yargle as your commander and no lands left in your library. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and get the achievement that only requires a single game of Magic played, because these other 2 are super grindy, even if you have the right deck for it, even if you're running that Rat Colony deck. So we're going to wrap this video up by playing a little bit more Magic here until I get that Death by Vanilla achievement with our Selesnya commons and uncommons all vanilla creature deck. All right, and here we are for our very first game, trying to get the vanilla creatures only achievement. And very important to mention, since I do cut out the queue times when I do these videos, I queued for standard play. We are not in the ranked queues because this deck is not competitive. It is certainly not a meta deck or anything, so we don't want to play against ranked competitive players right now. We just want some simple games against some more casual decks to try to get that win as quickly as possible with our also, again, definitely not streamlined deck here. It's a bunch of vanilla creatures. So far, we're doing pretty great. Because we're going to have 3 vanilla creatures cast. We have multiple great spells here, so that we can trample with one, we can blow something else up. Honestly, my biggest concern right now, with how solid this start has been, is... Okay, that's obviously quite threatening. So I am going to have to blow that up. But my biggest concern is still that I need to cast 5 vanilla creatures. I'm afraid our opponent might concede before that point. No blocks. That's awkward. I wanted them to block here so I could kill both of them. Because I have to overprotect anyway to make somebody big enough to kill Ouroboros. And I can't not kill Ouroboros. Okay. See, this is the problem. We got them down to 6. I mean, they have multiple food tokens. I doubt the game will be over before we cast 2 more creatures. We'll probably be fine. Because now I need to draw more spells. Since I had to double spell to do that close encounter, I can't break through these until we get the Ceratops down, so... They are stable. They are certainly stable. But I think the plan now is to find another Overprotect. We've got a full playset of that. Or the other Trample tricks. Hunter's Talent isn't exactly a trick, but it will give Trample to the Ceratops. So there's 3 other copies of Overprotect, 4 copies of Hunter's Talent that give Trample, and 2 copies of the one that gives a +1/+1 counter and Trample. So there are... What, like... oh yeah, that's a tap land. 8 cards. 8 specific cards we're looking for to finish this one off. Okay. At least they don't have much pressure either. We got the board nice and clumpy here. Clumpy might not be the right word. Oh, right, that can turn the food into 4/4s. They do have some pressure then. The trade into 4/4s one by one. I could finish them off with the llama, potentially, if they get too aggressive. Okay, if they don't have a way to... Ooh, beautiful. If they don't have a way to deal with the Ceratops, then they can't attack us anymore. That's what I was about to say, but we drew the Hunter's Talent for it too. So if they can't deal with the Ceratops, it will finish this game off, and that is our 5th vanilla creature. This very basic, very simple deck idea might just pan out perfectly, exactly how I wanted it to in my head here. Here we go. Just blow up the scariest card. And that should be lethal. Don't even need to close encounter for it to be lethal, as far as I know. Because I could, like, block these 4, take 13. Okay, concession from our opponent, and a concession definitely works, but if close encounter resolved, that would have killed Scrap Shooter, Trample for a million bajillion, so that is exactly how I wanted the deck to work, and I'm very happy to see that it can get you the win here. It can help get you that achievement in the standard play queues. I did play a Hushwood Verge, which was an untapped source that ended up tapping for white on turn 2, but I didn't tap this the turn I played it, because I only had a 1 white mana creature in my hand, so if this were a common dual land that always enters tapped, and if this were a common dual land because I never activated it anyway, the game would have played out the exact same way, so you are fully capable of getting this achievement. All commons and uncommons, you could have just played the common duels there that game, and functionally it's all the same. So let's see, there it is, Death by Vanilla, the achievement procs, and that is how you get that one off of just a single game of Magic. Now, again, we got pretty lucky there. We drew the Trample spell pretty quickly after having the Ceratops, and that helps a bunch. Plus, we had a great matchup. Being able to play against a deck that wasn't really running removal spells made it so we could really make sure we end the game with that Ceratops. So we got pretty lucky there with the matchup. I'm not going to overstate how strong the deck is, but it is certainly good enough to get the achievement within a few days. Might be a few games, hopefully. It might be a little bit of a grind, but you're going to be used to grinding out these achievements with how many games you have to play to do 93 damage with the Yargles, or really, you have to play 20 games minimum with your Dominaria card deck, so with your Rat Colony deck. So I'm going to assume this deck should easily get you the win before 20 games at least, making it a quicker achievement to get than a Frog of Culture. But that's going to do it for me for today. I am certainly not going to grind out any of these other 3 achievements. I think these are all the ones that will take forever. So I might try to do it off screen, but probably just won't have the time. We'll be back to Outlaws of Thunder Junction drafts tomorrow instead. But best of luck to all of you Yargle fans. Best of luck to all you Barglers on trying to get your brand new title. I truly wish you the best on it, because it's going to be a stressful one having a timed achievement thing like this. But it's a cool one. It's very cool to get unique achievements and unique emotes and titles for like a specific beloved character like this. Once again, I said it several times before, I like everything about this, except, well, first and foremost, the fact that dealing damage with Yargles during the Yargle Day event doesn't count. That's kind of absurd. I don't like that I didn't get any progress from damaging with Yargle during the event itself. But then secondly, I don't like that it's very timed for these achievements. It would be nice if there was just like a miscellaneous or an extras or something category, so Yargle fans can take as much time as they need for these incredibly long, incredibly grindy achievements. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. And other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.